the good old days. Remember we could just buy a console and just play games? But that's not the world of today, right? Today they want all our information, credit card number, your date of birth, all that stuff. And it's something that they can't keep secure. It doesn't matter what company. And of all the companies, guys, that have had hacks, Nintendo has been the last one, right? PlayStation's been hacked. Now that they've been hacked, at this point, probably a lot of information is out there. What do we get? Some sort of service, right? They do us a favor. Right? We're going to give you some cybersecurity help for 3 months. And then what does that mean? Strangers from overseas have our private information. It is nuts. And this, situation with Nintendo is a little bit different. It's a little bit different because this company has been probably the most litigious, right, of all the companies when it comes to their IPs. Now, what's happened here? Well, according to all the reports out there, and there's multiple reports, that this month, October 2025, a group calling themselves Crimson Collective has hacked them, and they put out their pictures on the internet of their files. Now, if this is true, it really represents Nintendo's first hack that we know of, right? And this company is very secretive, so I don't know if they're even going to acknowledge this, right? But if they have our information, if these hackers took customer information, they have to make it public. I mean, that's the law, right? They have to take ownership of that. And they've been historically litigious, like I said, and they'll sue everybody. What are they going to do in this case? And what does it mean for their intellectual properties, right? Because the most important part for me, the only part that I care about is my information being out there. Right? But besides that, you have, their company files, what have you. It appears that this Crimson Collective is a group that targets specifically, cloud services, stuff like that. I think they had a confirmed attack on Red Hat earlier in this same year. From the reports that I read, this group is using like exposed credentials, stolen cloud tokens, that type of stuff, to infiltrate large data sets, which is what they want. They want that information. They want that sensitive information because then they can ask for bitcoins, right, for ransom. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, this is all for money. But Nintendo's a unique target, and they're not like most companies out there, most video game companies. Like I said, they're very guarded with their company assets, intellectual property, right? And in this case, with Nintendo, they're such an old company in this space, right? They have decades of code, right? And we don't know what these guys have gotten yet, right? And we don't know if they got to headquarters or what's going on. But I'm sure that they could have significant consequences, especially if it's exposed and they don't pay. Then all their competitors are going to know what they're working on, right? And this company's internal culture, if you really think about it, go back in the days, it's always been of secrecy and legal defensiveness, right? Nintendo routinely uses, and some people say would abuse, the DMCA process for takedowns and remove anything on the internet they don't like, right? The famous Nintendo ninjas. Now, they've had this image of control for all this time, but if they were hacked, forget about that image. That image is right out the door, because if these guys got our information from Nintendo, then it's a completely different ball of wax, right? Control is the least thing they have when somebody else has sensitive information on it. But really, what is going to be the response? The response can't be silence if they have our information, because the law says that they have to inform us. But what do you do in this kind of case, right? And I'm telling you, I've been in companies where we have been cyber attacked, where we have been held for ransom. And, what's the probable response that you can get on something like this? Well, first you have to do containment and isolation, right? You have to know what was hacked. We have to make sure that, that all that is isolated so it doesn't spread throughout the company. You have to do an investigation, of course, right? And like a deep audit, forensic IT teams involved, what's going on, how did they get access and all that stuff. And then you have to call your legal team, like, what's our liability here? What are we supposed to do? And is it European laws that we have to follow, or American laws, or what's going on, right? And last but not least, if you have to communicate to the public, like, hey, this happened, these are the steps we're taking, and all this stuff, right? But if they don't pay, what's going to happen? I mean, these companies usually put everything out on the internet, and that includes games. So they're going to have to be chasing out there all these ROMs and stuff that people are going to download from the internet, which is going to cost them money. I mean, it's just bad news. And then you have to do like an infrastructure overhaul and see, don't ever do this again, yada, yada, yada. Did somebody answer an email? Did somebody go somewhere they're not supposed to? All those kind of things. You just never know what can happen with these companies, right? But, what can they look at? I mean, what are we looking at as consumers, right? If we go from the past, these guys from the Red Hat incident, these attackers, I think back then they had access to a lab, a repository of some data or something like that. And the company just disabled those servers so nobody could get to them. Now, I don't think the company shut down from that, but it really demonstrated how weak these repositories of data are, especially when they hold customer data. I mean, it's just bad. And Nintendo probably uses the same kind of internal development that these other companies do. I mean, the internet's the internet, computers are computers. I'm not, computer expert, right? But if they're able to get into Nintendo, they probably did it the same way they got into Red Hat. And if there's any third-party people that have files on there, other game companies besides Nintendo that are on those files, where they have copies of games, I mean, that's a whole nother ball of wax, man. And it's just crazy, right? And it's just the way that it's impacted the industry. For me, it's like, geez, I just want to buy a console and I want to play games, and I don't have to worry about all this other crap, right? Because right now we are the commodity. These guys are obsessed with obtaining our information so they can resell it, so they can use it, and they're not even good stewards of the information. They can't be with all these people out there trying to get all your information, all this criminal activity, and that is rewarded in some instances because a lot of companies do pay in order to get, handle of their data, and it's crazy, and this is going to make us be more worried about giving these companies our information. That's why I'm like, I don't know, I'm tapped out. I don't want to give anybody any more information that's already out there. I don't want to fill out all these forms, all this stuff that these companies ask you for. It's so exhausting. They want to know everything. And for what? So they can sell you more crap. And then they don't even take care of the information that you give them. The first they want to do is resell it. Well, so you give it to Nintendo, even if they're the best company ever, if part of their business model is to resell your information, you don't know who the hell they're reselling it to, and if those people have any type of guardianship over your data, or even care for that matter, right? And what are we to conclude here? At the end of the day, we're all vulnerable. And then these video game companies have become so intrusive in our lives by wanting our information that it's really affecting people negatively, right? Having your information out there on the internet, having your billing information out there, your ID, whatever it is that they collect, especially now they want to go with this digital ID crap. Can you imagine if we had to sign in with digital IDs? And it's probably coming. Right? It's probably coming, just like they want to do it in the UK. Like, hey, we need your ID so you can play this game because it's an adult game. Screw that. I mean, at that point, I'm out. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm already pissed about this. I'm already pissed that we have to do all these things just to play a game. Right? You buy the game, you have to sign into the game, you have to sign in with a console maker. Then the software maker wants the same information. They want you to log in into their, website. You have to keep track of points. I mean, I don't want any of that. I just want to stick the cartridge in my machine and play. I just want to turn the switch on and play. I don't want all this extra stuff. But that's modern gaming today, and let me tell you, I hate it. And this is a perfect example of why. All right, humans, let's keep hoping that nothing really bad happens, but who knows at this point? I don't trust anyone. Guys, thank you so much for liking and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate your comments. It's a Monday morning. I wish you guys have a productive week out there, and maybe have a good cup of coffee to get it started like I am. Jeez, it's only Monday and we get this kind of news. All right, humans, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.